Hello, Carrots here. Welcome to part 17 of the 30 grandchildren badge attempt. This is actually head of the family badge, but we need to get 30 grandchildren, so that's why I call it a 30 grandchildren badge. The two characters we are playing with in this episode are Javon and Gwen. They're on vacation to get their relationship up so they can become married and move out of Javon's family home. Gwen's been living with them for ages, but the homes is too overpopulated and their relationship seemed to be going nowhere, so I sent them on vacation. They've just been to China and now they've arrived in Egypt. And the first thing they need to do is buy all of the books, fishing, recipe and skill books, so that everybody back at home can learn the recipes and the skills and the fishing baits for everything from each of the 3 World Adventure Worlds. They did this in China and they will do it when they get to France, which will happen later in this episode. Let's just take a quick look around the market overhead and around part of the town. This is where most of the Sims live. In this episode, Javon and Gwen will be living at the base camp in a tent. Now, Gwen's been out collecting for quite some time and she just tried to collect that little bird, but it bit her and escaped. What she's really looking for are dig sites because she wants to get as many relics as she possibly can because they're trying to collect 20,000 simoleans worth of relics so Cody can get his lifetime wish of perfect museum. That's a spotted sixum and Gwen's going to try to catch it. She just got bitten by that little bluebird. I might let her keep this spotted sixum for a while. I won't sell that straight away. I usually sell the birds immediately because I just play with things and it gets really annoying after a while. So there we go. That's what we're looking for, are dig sites, and we found one. What they really need is the Tear of Horus. You can buy that from the special merchant, but not until you are at visa level 3, and they're not going to stick around long enough to get to visa level 3, so I've just got to keep looking down from above in map view and zooming in where I think might be a likely spot. You find a lot more when you've got Tear of Horus because it'll show you where they are. Javon went fishing at one of the local oases and shortly he was joined by Gwen when she'd found a few relics and caught a couple of birds and found some gemstones and some rocks. Got to get their fishing skill up and catch a few different fish. And it's something they enjoy doing together. They don't usually get the opportunity at home because they hardly ever leave the house. And at the wishing well, only one sim can fish at a time. Oh, Javon just caught a fish. There's plenty more jumping in this oasis. They've got crocodiles in here as well. And probably some mummy fish too. I haven't seen one of them for a while. Javon had heard somebody talking about some local ruins. They were very small and hard to find. And he thought it'd be a nice opportunity to have some quiet alone time with Gwen. So he asked her would she like to go with him, and off they went, running through the desert near the river, and they could see the huge ruins off in the distance. Javon wasn't sure where to find the entrance because it was hidden, but he thought he would have a look around and see what he could find. Gwen waited for him. He thought he'd give her a call when he found out if he could get into the hidden part of this tomb complex. It had all fallen down, but he was sure there was an entrance there somewhere. Aha, there it is. Found it. Javon raced down the steps to make sure all was safe, and Gwen was close behind him. When they got down there, they discovered it was really just one small room, but it was something adventurous and exciting to do together. There could be some treasure in here as well, but they just really wanted to make out. They wanted to have a little kiss or two. Haven't done much of this since they left China, and that was hours ago. Just a little flirting. They became boyfriend and girlfriend at the campground in China. Remember that in the last episode? The next step will be to get engaged. I wonder if he's going to propose marriage to her. Well, he's got something on his mind. His heart are quite red above their heads. Oh, he's patting her cheek. What's that he's saying? Look up. I'm happy. Don't look at me. Look up. Oh, she's all... Big kiss. He's getting up his courage. Just making sure that she does like him. That was a really long kiss. Oh, he's going to do it. He's got a ring. He came prepared. Oh, she's excited. She's going to say yes. There it is. Now they're engaged to be married. Fantastic. This is what we need. They'll have to go home for their wedding because we're going to have a wedding in the little wedding chapel that came with the world that they live in. Cake Island. Big hug. I think they're going to be happy. Jumped in his arms. That was all autonomous. Whisper in his ear, tell him a secret. Oh, romantic photo together. Big kiss or little kiss while they take their photo. There it is. I think it's time to search this little room for treasure because there is some to be found. There's a treasure chest to be opened just over there, and Gwen has found it and she's opened it. Just had some ancient coins in it. They've got plenty of ancient coins and they don't have the visa points they need to buy anything good. Got to do adventures to get the visa points. There's more ancient coins on the floor. There's a hole in the floor there. Now Gwen's brave. Wonder if she's going to get all bugs running up her arm. Not if she's lucky. She might get a treasure. She's got something. I don't know what it was. Possibly food. You need to find relics for Cody. Now it's time to look for more places to dig. That abandoned mine is always a good spot, but there doesn't seem to be anything much there at the moment. There's usually mamatomium near that mine. Not every sim day, but most of the time when they're there you can get it once or twice. It would be so much easier if we had the Tear of Horus to be able to tell us where the treasures are. Oh look, there's one. There's a dig spot. Somebody can go in there and dig that. Don't usually look in that particular spot. Should do that more often. We'll send Gwen there to dig there. Now we've got to find somewhere for Javon to dig. Without the Tear of Horus, you've just got to sort of float around in the sky looking for places that you think just might be likely spots for digging spots or collecting anything at all. And since I've been playing the game for so many years now, I've sort of got an idea, but it's not a very helpful idea. I keep getting mixed up between the Tears of Horus and the Eyes of Horus. The Tear of Horus is what you buy from the special merchant. I think I've got Javon coming up to the mine site because there's some few bits and pieces there he can collect. Yes, a Tear of Horus is to help you find treasure that's out in the world. But there's two Eyes of Horus, and you have to go into the big tomb at Abu Simbel to find them. And all they do is they let you teleport from one eye to the other eye. So they're worth taking with you if you get into that tomb. You will need them to complete the tomb. There is no adventure with the tomb at Abu Simbel. So you just go into it when you feel like a complicated, long, difficult, time-consuming tomb to complete. But there's lots of treasure in there. Lots of different riddles to solve. I've got Muriel doing it in my video series, the Isle of Paradiso Bunch. And I think it took her at least 2 full episodes to get through it. There's Gwen hard at work. I hope she finds lots of relics that they can give to Cody to help him get his lifetime wish. It's getting fairly late in the day and that it'll probably be dark before she's finished digging in that excavation spot. If we had the Tear of Horus, it's like the collection helper, how the collection helper shows you where the thing is that you're looking for. You can turn on the tear and it will highlight all the places where there is treasure to be found. So when it got dark, they decided to go and peek in the windows at this mansion. There's 2 mansions side by side. They're available to visitors. Tourists can live in them if you get to level 3 in your visa. They're huge. This one's 3 stories of living space. It seemed to be beautifully, if sparsely, furnished, and Gwen and Javon could just dream about their own future home. The grounds were beautifully landscaped as well, and they had great views of the pyramids and the Sphinx from the upper levels. I don't think a sim could get up into those towers, but you see there's 3 levels. And there is their view from the top level, the Sphinx with the pyramids in the distance. But it was late and it was raining, and Gwen and Javon needed to sleep. So they headed back to their tent in the base camp, where they had a little flirting before it was time for sleep. Of course, they shared a tent. And the paparazzi were there for them as well. It's difficult being a paparazzi in the rain. You've got to hold your umbrella up or take your photos. But Gwen and Javon weren't bothered by that. They just enjoyed their night's sleep. While they were sleeping, we saw a strange light off in the distance and went to investigate and found an oasis with a unicorn. It was very good at walking backwards. It was fortunate to find a white unicorn. At least you could see it in the dark. And then when it had walked backwards, it ran forwards and we lost sight of it momentarily. And then it was morning time and it vanished. And that was it for the unicorn until tomorrow night. Back at the campground, the Sims were starting to wake, but a lot of them were still sleeping. Javon and Gwen were both awake and up and getting ready for their new day. There's Javon running off. Gwen's already gone into the ladies' bathroom. That's the ladies' side, and the men's side is where Javon has just run. Javon's up and about and in a hurry. They're going to have a very busy day today. I hope it stops raining. There's so many puddles around. They've got a lot of excavating and exploring to do. That looks like an interesting patch down there, that group of rectangles. And there, Gwen's found a dig spot. And here comes Javon. I'm sure there's one there for him as well. There we go. Javon's got his. They will leave them, have another bit of a look around. The sun finally came out and all of the puddles started drying up and making it all hazy. But there's the Sphinx off in the distance. Then Javon went for a long run to see what else he could find, and he came across a food truck with his back wheels buried and his front wheels in the air. But funnily enough, it was still functional. He's heading off now for the pyramid of the desert ocean because he's heard that there is something underneath it where he might be able to get a few treasures. In all, Javon and Gwen spent several days in Egypt, and they did a lot of digging and exploring, and they went through a few tombs, but we don't have time for all of that. If you're interested in seeing through all of the tombs, my playlist, the Isle of Paradiso Bunch, playlist 2, will take you through all of the tombs in each of the 3 World Adventure worlds. But now Javon and Gwen have to move on, and they're going to go to France. We need them to be back home and married by the end of this episode, so there is no time for any more time spent in Egypt. So we're off to France now. There were lots of rock piles in this tomb. I thought we'd have a quick look at Abbas Symbol just as they leave for France. That's the huge tomb that takes a couple of days to get through. They set off for France, and when they arrived it was raining. That didn't stop Gwen. She wanted to catch butterflies, and there was plenty of butterflies near the little waterhole. So she splashed about in the rain. They had rain in Egypt, and now they've got rain in France. But it looks like they've got lots of interesting coloured butterflies, and Gwen's going to try to get them all. The more time your sim spends chasing butterflies, the more varieties they get, and some of the rare butterflies suddenly start appearing after you've had them chasing butterflies for 2 or 3 days. So that was a lucky find. She's come across an excavation spot and she's excavating for relics. Hopefully she'll find a few. Javon's back at the marketplace. He's taking care of the shopping in France. So they've been in 3 worlds now on this vacation, and in each world they've bought all of the fishing books, skill books and recipe books, as well as a few other items that they can only get in World Adventure worlds. In spite of having a few lightning strikes coming very close to her, and they were big lightning strikes, Gwen stuck to the excavating, and when she'd finally emptied that excavation spot, this river was just too inviting and she had to run down to it to play in the water, in the rain, in the middle of a huge thunderstorm, with lightning strikes actually hitting the ground nearby. I think she was either very brave or very foolish. The next thing she got up to was she had agreed to meet up with Javon, and they met up at the Nectary because they wanted to have some nectar tasting, and the best place for that was the Nectary. And she was still wearing her swimwear, but she soon found the nectar, and then she tasted some, and Javon helped her. They so enjoyed the nectar that they tasted that Javon decided he wanted to have some at home. The best way he could get it at home regularly was to buy a nectar making machine. So then he went and bought a nectar making machine and a few other things. They stayed at the base camp overnight, and the next day they went out excavating and looking for treasure. Gwen came across some good excavating spots on top of the lost burial ground. They also went through some of the tombs, but they couldn't get into all of them because they didn't have Pangu's axe. There's another nice looking excavating spot there on the left of the screen. Javon was running around chasing butterflies and looking for more excavation spots around the world. Quite often the excavation spots are close to where he found wildflowers or other collectibles. There still seems to be plenty of water in the ground because it splashes when Gwen walks around. She empties one excavation spot and moves on to the next, and she'll continue doing this for the rest of the day. And when the day is almost over, she stops and she goes downstairs into the tomb where she found a chair to sit on so she could cool down and do a little bit of reading in the quiet cool of the tomb. As Gwen relaxed in the tomb, night fell and it became quite dark outside, and the familiar unicorn cloud appeared in the sky, so I decided to go and check it out. I think there's a white unicorn in this world as well this time. I'm usually stuck with black unicorns when I'm making videos, and they're almost impossible to see at night. And there's the train track. I wonder if the train will come. It'll be fun to see it in the dark with its lights. Oh look, there's the train. Its light slowly emerging from the tunnel. It'll just go across and it'll disappear into the mountain on the other side. Sometimes if you can get close enough, you can actually hear it whistle. So we mightn't have spotted the unicorn, but we saw the train. Later on, Gwen went back to the base camp and she and Javon sat and read some of the books they've been buying so they would know the recipes when they went home. Next morning, Gwen went back to the forgotten burial ground and she stood on a floor switch that was concealed by some bushes, and it opened up a set of steps. So she went down the steps and she found a tomb. She thought she'd complete that tomb while she was here because it might have relics in it, and they're looking for relics so Cody can get his lifetime wish. Javon joined her in this tomb and they came across a sarcophagus, and the temptation was just too great. They decided their company was so attractive that an empty sarcophagus was just too tempting, and they had a first woohoo in the tomb in France. In a sarcophagus. I hope that was fun. So this tomb's going to take her a while to do, and we don't have time for that. We've got to get this pair home and married and moved out into their own home as quickly as possible. Again, if you want to see through these tombs, I have complete tomb walkthroughs all through the Isle of Paradiso Bunch playlist too. So we'll leave this tomb as they stay there together, flirting. They spent their final days in France, racing around together, collecting things. There were beetles and butterflies, relics, wildflowers, gems, metals, and fish. Though anything was fair game for this pair, they were just there having fun and being together on their own for the first time during this vacation. But it was soon time to go back home, and that's what we're going to do next. We'll be travelling home to get ready for the wedding. Apart from the fact that they were looking forward to being home and having a wedding, when the ghosts started haunting the graveyard near where they were fishing, they thought it was a really good time to leave the area and just go home. I relied on the NRAS Traveller mod to travel direct from China to Egypt to France. Should have gone home each time, but I didn't. So when I told them eventually to go home, it's always a little bit of a wondering. It's always a little bit of a worry because you don't quite know if the game remembers which world is home. You could end up absolutely anywhere. So it's not recommended to do what I did, but I got lucky this time. It took them directly home. And now Javon and Gwen, whose inventories are absolutely packed full of everything they've collected, including relics and butterflies and insects of all sorts. And so they have to put everything away in the various cabinets that were fit for the purpose. So far he's put away all of his insects, and then the next cupboard his metals, gems and elixirs. And now here's Gwen putting away all of her insects, and next she'll go and put away the metals, gems and elixirs that she's carrying. Javon was down in Kobe's museum, and all of a sudden Kobe got his lifetime wish awarded to him from the relics that Javon and Gwen had collected and were putting away in his museum. So congratulations, Kobe, you can now age up any time. Then suddenly everybody had to rush off to City Hall. Wilfred and Felicia are about to graduate, and the ceremony is about to begin. And here we are, everybody's arrived. And they're all going to file in, and some idiots built a snowman right outside the front door of City Hall. I suspect that some idiot might have been Colin. He was the first imaginary friend to be made real, I think. No, he wasn't. That was Brian. But I saw Colin in action. It was definitely Colin that was building that snowman. Maybe he just finished it off. I don't know who started it. It was just there. I need to see the formal dresses that some of these women are wearing, because a few of them have dumped their formal wear and are parading around in those beige nighties now instead of their pretty formal dresses. And I've got to try to put them back as they were when they were originally dressed by me. I've already redone Jerry's outfit, but you'll see when you see the wedding, you'll probably notice quite a few of the guests are all dressed in the same boring outfit. I'll try not to include much of them, but it was a little bit bad. So with this gathering, it was the last time I saw all of them together in their actual proper formal outfits. So who's the snowman builder? Who's the culprit? Am I right in saying it was Colin, or is it actually Brian after all? I can't really tell. So it's Brian, but it's definitely one of the imaginary friends made real, and that's the sort of behaviour that Colin was getting up to when we first moved him out. He was loving to make snow angels and snowmen all around his new workplace at the time. It was a couple of episodes ago now though. The ceremony is over and they're about to start emerging, so Brian makes an escape. It looks like Megan coming out first, followed by Lynette and Candace and Jerry and one of the graduates. That'd be Wilfred. And Javon, there goes his diploma up in the air, caught it. Soon everybody was out. I seem to have missed Felicia tossing her diploma in the air. Is that dreadful genie? We won't worry about her. Oh look, there's Felicia. We didn't miss her after all. We might get Felicia's toss. There she goes. I thought I'd missed her. She did it. Very good. Now we can all go home and start preparing for a wedding. For some reason Jerry decided not to go straight home. She instead stopped off at Tony McLean's place. I've got no idea why. Perhaps she wanted to have a chat to him about the upcoming wedding. After all, he is the father of all of her children. We'll see if Tony shows up at the wedding. And there was somebody had to go to the bookstore, but it wasn't a very successful bookstore visit. But that's the bookstore. It's surprisingly much more colourful in the summertime. Robbie had one more go at taking the lamp underground, but it was a huge failure, so I gave up and I cancelled the opportunity to free the genie. I reset the genie back at home, but that didn't do anything helpful, so I got Master Controller and I removed her genie occult state, and then I returned her genie occult state to her, and at that point she finally had the correct needs. She no longer had the mummy needs, so problem solved. And now she is just an ordinary genie living in the house with the others. And the lamp was no longer stuck in Robbie's inventory. He could move it around and put it onto a shelf. So when the genie became free, she moved out. We put her into her own house, and that's what's happening at the moment. She's going to go and live somewhere else. There is a spare house just down the road that she can live in. I need to get the genie out because Javon and Gwen are starting to fight again, and I do not want them to break up. I want them married and out of here this episode, and if that genie stays in the household, it is quite possible that they'll break up. So in order to avoid that happening, she's going. Don't worry, we haven't seen the last of her. She will be taking an active role in several scenes later in this episode and in future episodes. She obviously didn't like the house I'd put her into, because no sooner had she gone inside than she came out again, jumped into a taxi and moved house to a place that more suited her own ideas of where she ought to be living. Remember I said I'd try to capture a sim having an episode with a hair dye? Well, Robbie has come back from the mausoleum and he's all singed and grubby from the bear attack, and his shower has been sabotaged by one of the teens, and he's going to have a hair dye. Look, his hair's gone bright purplish pink, and he comes out of the shower and he checks and he realises he's got a problem, and he jumps straight back into the shower and his hair goes to its proper colour. Problem solved. And he gets clean this time as well, which is even better. I got a couple of aquariums to move Demetrius' fish from the fish bowls to the aquariums, and she's about to start doing that now, scooping each fish out of each fish bowl and putting it into the aquarium. We'll do that with all of the fish, but except for the piranha. I'm not going to put the piranha in the aquarium because it'll probably eat all the other fish. Oh, there's Gwen. She's come to check out as well. Check out the aquariums because they're new, because you know what Sims are like. They've got to go and check all the new objects. Javon was there to start with. We'll leave them sort out the fish. There's Javon upstairs on the left enjoying the guitar. One of the girls, I think it might be Sharonda, is playing. And in the background there is Alicia and Dennis. They're dancing. They look like they're a happy couple together, which is good because they're going to be married shortly as well. But it'll probably be another couple of episodes before that happens, because we've got to get Javon and Gwen married in this episode. And the next episode it will be Robbie and Candace. Felicia decided to take this opportunity to turn her imaginary friend Peanut real. Now, I thought that since Peanut was running around anyway, that it wouldn't really make much difference turning her real, but it ended up making the game unplayable, which is why I've had to then create another new sim to be used to help me move them all to a new save. Peanut became Pauline. Her traits are loner, technophobe, handy, vehicle enthusiast, and heavy sleeper. Her lifetime wish is professional author. While Pauline was being made real, Gwen had gone off to the local junkyard, and she was going through a pile of junk when she should have been getting ready for her wedding. I felt a bit bad dragging the bride out of the junkyard just to put her in a wedding dress, and so she could go through her wedding ceremony with Javon. This is the tiny wedding chapel that came with the world, Cake Island 2. And everybody's going to turn up here shortly, and we're going to have a wedding ceremony. Finally, the bride and groom were standing at the wedding arch. The ceremony was ready to begin. There's the genie just walked past. There was all sorts of Sims here today. Yeah, we've got a few imaginary friends turn up as well by the look of it. The one on the left there with the nightie on, she used to have a very brightly coloured dress. She's Josie, one of the imaginary friends made real. So Byron's going to stand and block our view of the wedding of the wedding couple. And Gwen was there showing off her muscles. Come on, we've got to get them down to business of actually getting married. We're not here to stand under the wedding arch. Oh, yeah, they are talking. They're giving their vows. A ring is going on. And then the other ring is going on. And oh, there's hearts floating down, and there's a kiss. The wedding's happened. They're now Mr. and Mrs. Javon. Actually, they could become Richard's Holden. There's a dip kiss going on there, but I obviously couldn't get anywhere near it, so I got them to do it again later on and took a peek. And there's Rice. The guests are tossing Rice, and she's massaging him. Ah, well, there's not much of this wedding that actually went to plan. Mr. and Mrs. Richards Holden. There's lots of rice being thrown at them. I hope it makes their marriage to be very enjoyable and fruitful. And they have 5 children and all that sort of thing. That's the paparazzi there in that pink top. Now, as soon as Gwen went outside to get a drink at the bar, our friendly genie decided to approach Javon, who was still standing under the wedding arch, and she gave him a bunch of flowers. So there goes Gwen, and he is Genie, and there's the bunch of flowers for Javon from Genie. Lucky Gwen's already gone outside. I think that must be a paparazzi there. And there's pink hearts between Javon and Jeannie as well. I'm hoping that doesn't mean there's trouble ahead for Javon and Gwen. I think there were 3 wedding guests there in that same nighty outfit. That's Josie that's walking through, and there's Jerry standing next to the bride, and Alicia is somewhere, and she's also lost her formal outfit. But that's it for the wedding. They didn't have much of a celebration afterwards. It was just hang around the bar and get a few drinks while the paparazzi took lots of photos. Javon and Jerry stood outside waiting for Gwen to join them for ages. Gwen was really hard to get Gwen away from the bar. I think she's probably quite well juiced by now. Javon called the car up, and after much persuasion he finally got his new wife to join him and go home with him. That's blonde Sim walking away from us. I'll introduce you to her properly in the next episode, but she is the new Sim that I made so that we can set them up in this new version of Cake Island 2. Javon's come to the Humble Harvest stand at the greenhouse to consign some of his produce. At this point, I have left the main household and I've got Javon and Gwen's new household active to set them up properly. I'm going to do this for each of the married couples. So the main household has to be the active household when all of the grandchildren are being born. So if any of these couples have any babies while I'm in the process of marrying the couples and moving them into their homes, well, you can be sure those babies will not count towards the 30 grandchildren because the game won't have recorded them. I've got to stay in Jerry's house while the grandchildren that are born. And I have to be logged into the website as well for them to be counted. My research indicates you need to stay at home in Jerry's house while logged in for each of the 30 grandchildren being born. And then Jerry has to have another baby. And then, theoretically, the badge ought to be awarded. There's Javon going home. So that's the end of the video. I'll try to show you some inside Javon and Jerry's house in the next video, and I will also give you more information on Pauline. That was the imaginary friend who's just been made real, and I didn't show you her after she's been made over. That's Zach Paulson standing there. And I will also show you that new sim that I made. So that's it for now. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed and would like to make sure you see the next episode, it'd be a good idea to subscribe and click the bell so you get notified. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Bye bye for now, and happy simming.